Good afternoon, everybody. It's Malik again, and we're continuing the codes and ciphers. We're still in the substitution ciphers. The last video we did monoalphabetic, and now we're going to get into the polyalphabetic. There's 4 overall, but really, if you understand one, you got the other 3. There's a Visionnaire, there's Buford, there's Autokey, and then there's running key. Autokey and running key are exactly like Visionnaire. Buford changes the algorithm slightly, but is still pretty simple to manage. But we're getting a little bit more complex here in the substitutions. Instead of just dealing with an alphabet and sliding an alphabet somewhere else, we're going to get a little bit more complex here. So let's get in again what a substitution was in case you didn't watch the first one. Substitution ciphers do absolutely nothing but take your plain text and substitute it with something else in its place, depending on the rule of the cipher that you're using. Again, they can be very simple, like the Caesar cipher, which is nothing but a rot 3. Rotation 3, where we slide the alphabet down by 3, where A equals D, B equals E, etc., etc. You can brute force them all day long, and you're not wasting any time. So they're incredibly simple, all the way to the most complex one, where we talked about enigma at the end of the last video, where we're dealing with at least 7 substitutions, plus the 2 plugboard substitutions. And that was only the first version of Enigma. After that, they went to 10 rotors, and now we were dealing with, they went to 5 rotors, so we were dealing with 10 substitutions plus the 2 plug boards. So we're going to get a little bit more complex here because we're getting into polyalphabetics. So monoalphabetics were the last one. These are the new ones. Well, the first one we want to talk about is a Visionnaire Cipher. Okay, it does absolutely nothing, but it uses several Caesar ciphers, usually 26 of them in a sequence. This shifts your letters. Now, this is great because if you watched the first video, you knew that the problem with those standard monoalphabetic ciphers was the letter S is always going to be mapped to the letter X or whatever. That is not going to happen here. So here, if we have 3 or 4 L's in our plain text, they're not always going to be the same letter in the cipher. Well, how does this work? Well, it only works because we must have a keyword to encode it and decode it. So if you want your person to decode your cipher, you better give them a keyword, or either they're going to have to brute force it. And brute forcing these, while it is possible, takes a very long time because there's multiple combinations. So let's take a look at what we call a tabula recta, a Visionnaire table looks like. Now, so this could fit on my screen, you're only looking at about half this table. The alphabet can go all the way from A to Z across the top. And then the alphabet goes from A to Z all the way down. And then you fill the inside blocks with the alphabet in order, just A, B, C, D, F, G, all the way to Z. And in the next column, you start with B and you go all the way until you run out, and you're going to be one short, so of course A is going to take that spot. So when you look at it from top to bottom, you're going to have, the alphabet that goes down, and then the next row, the next column is going to start with B and then go down, and then C and then go down, and the same inside the row. Okay? So you build this first. Now, you come up with a keyword. First off, you have your plain text. So here, I was going to use hello, but I can't because I didn't take it out to the O's, so I just shrunk it to hell. So our plain text is hell. Well, our keyword is cab, just C-A-B. But we need the length of the keyword to match the length of the plain text. So you keep repeating the word. So if it was actually hello, it would be C-A-B-C-A. If it was hello, this is Malik, it would be C-A-B, 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 etc., etc., until they match length. Okay, now to come up with the cipher, you use your keyword. In this case, it's a C. So we go to row C. Okay? And then you take a look at your plain text. Well, in row C, I'm going to use my plain text, and I am going to go over until I get to column H. The intersection of row C and column H is my encrypted letter. So it's a J. Okay? Let me actually do this here for you. Make life a little bit easier. Boink. There we go. That won't disappear on me. So, again, keyword C. I'm going to go over to column H, which is here, and I'm going to end up with J. Okay. My next one, I'm going to go to column A, because that's my keyword. Go over, row A. Go over to column E, because that's where my plain text is, and I just happen to make an E. Now this is where it gets cool and different from the monoalphabetic ciphers. For the first L in hell, I'm going to row B, all the way over to row L, and I end up with an M. Now for the last L, I'm going to row C. I'm still going to go to row L, but I'm going to have a different letter, N. So even though these two letters are the same in my plain text, they are not the same in my cipher. Now we're adding strength onto our ciphertext. If we wanted to decrypt this, okay, the first thing you do is you find the position of the ciphertext in the row. So now we reverse it. Now I go to J. Okay, and I'm sorry, I forgot what I was thinking about. And I'm going to follow that over. Okay, and we can see, you know, if I continue to no, I don't really need my cipher. I'm sorry. I want to deal with my keyword first. I'm going to start with C. I'm going to move over until I find my J. There's my J. That's my cipher. And then I move up to find what the column is. And that becomes H. That's my first word of my plain text. Now I go to row A, slide over until I find the E, go up. That's my next letter of my plain text. Go to row B, find the M, go up. That's the third letter of my plain text. Go to row C, find the N, go up. That's my fourth letter of my plain text. Now, to figure out this to this without using this, it's going to require some brute forces. Because look how many times J appears. It appears in every single column. Yeah. Well, eventually, you know, it won't as you keep going further and further. But if this thing went from A to Z all the way to A to Z, it would appear in all 26 columns. So you're going to have 26 different possibilities. Not that it can't be brute forced, it can be, but it's typically going to take a program to do it. Or it's going to take really just a bunch of trial and error. You'll try 2 or 3 letters until you figure out that, yep, that looks like a word. So I'm going to continue to do that. But if you're dealing with 26 rows, 26 columns, you may be playing for a long time before you come up with a word. So now we're getting much more difficult. Okay. Now, for people who don't like the Visionnaire, I actually really like the Visionnaire, but there's the Buford Cipher. Now, it uses the Visionnaire Cipher to do it. It just modifies the algorithm a little bit. We still have to have a keyword for encoding and decoding, but this time to encode, you find the letter in the top row of your plain text. You go down, I'm sorry, in the top row, you go down that column until you find the keyword letter, and then you go all the way to the left, and that's going to be your cipher. Okay. To decode is done the exact opposite. So to do it this way, I still use the same words here. I changed my keyword to lost. But now we start here. So we start up here this time. We start with the H. And my keyword is lost. So I'm going to go down until I get to the L. When I get to the L, I'm going to go all the way to the left, and that's going to be my first encrypted letter. Then I'm going to go to E, which is right here. Okay. I'm going to go down until I get to the O's, slide over. That's my second encrypted letter. L. Okay. I'm going to go down to the S, and that's my third encrypted letter. And then L again, but I'm going to go down to T. That is my fourth encrypted letter. To reverse it, we start over here if we're deciphering. Now, again, we really need the keyword. If not, we can brute force it, but it's going to take a while. But I start over here. I see that my first letter is the E in my cipher. I'm going to move over until I get to the keyword. There's the first letter of the keyword, and then move up to the top to find my first plain text letter. Okay. Then I go to K. I move over until I find the O, and then I move up to get my second plain text letter. Okay. And then H, move over till I get to the S's. There it is. Up, there's my third. And then the last one, I, move over until I get to the T, which is right here, all the way up. There's my third L, or second L. Again, without the keyword, it's very difficult to break. Okay. Now, I didn't give you examples for the next two, for the Autokey and the running key, because they're done exactly the same thing as a Visionnaire, with one small change. The Autokey Cipher is completely identical to Visionnaire. You do it the exact same way, with one small change. That's where you get your keyword, or what you do with your keyword. If your plain text message is, this is a secret, you don't just come up with a keyword, horse, or whatever. Whatever word you're thinking about for your keyword, I said truth. Instead of truth being your keyword, you take the word truth and you attach it onto the front of your plain text message. So it actually becomes truth, this is a secret. That is now your keyword. Now, you don't need all of that keyword to decrypt or encrypt this. You know, because if my addendum is 5 letters, I'm not going to need the last 5 letters here, but that's okay. I just don't use them. So I just append the word to the front. Okay. The longer, and you'll understand this, but the longer your keyword, the more complex it is to break. Yeah, when we repeat a keyword, especially something like a 3 character keyword or something, it's a lot easier to break than it is a 15 character keyword, which holds true with our passwords nowadays. If your password is 8 characters long, I don't care if you're using uppercase, lowercase, special symbols, and numbers, the entropy on it is only going to be somewhere around 50. That can be broken with a decent rainbow table in a matter of about half a second. However, if you use something like a passphrase that's 25 characters long or 20 characters long and just using uppercase and lowercase, you could be talking months. The longer the keyword, the harder to break. Alright, the very last one from transposition ciphers to running key ciphers. Again, done the same way, exactly the same way as the standard Visionnaire. I increase the length of the plain text message. We attack it dawn from the left flank. But we don't use a word, and we don't repeat it, and we don't append. What we do is we use some predetermined text from a book or from a passage. So I picked one from my favorite book. Through me you go into the city of grief, from Dante's Inferno. That is your keyword. And you encrypt and decrypt exactly the same way. Now, here's the big part of the running key cipher. We never ever use that keyword again. We may use another part of the same book or another part of the same passage, but we never use that line again. It is extremely similar to what we consider a one-time pad. It's only used once and then it's discarded. Okay, so they're your polyalphabetics. So again, now we're dealing with keys. Now we have public keys, which is really the beginning of public key cryptography, which is your symmetrics. So again, it stands to reason we have to keep that key out of the hands of people that we don't want to break our encryption. Because if they have the key and they have the cipher, they can figure out how you did it, and they're going to be able to break every one you do, especially if you use the same one over and over again. In the case of a running key, if somebody is able to get our key and our cipher, they'll be able to break that one, but they won't be able to break the next one because we're using something different. So if you know anything about standard cryptography that we're using today, you'll see that this is what we're doing now. We're trying to do as much one-time keys as we can, using a very low seed state and using one-time pads whenever we can, especially in session keys to where they can't be replayed. And this stuff, we were dealing with this back in the 17 and 1800s. Alright, so the video that's coming up next, we're going to get into polygraphic ciphers, Playfair, Bifids, Triffids, and Foursquare, in which case you're really going to see some complex encryption and decryption. These take a little bit of time to encrypt and decrypt because we're dealing with multiple things now. It's not a very simple little passphrase or something. It's a couple of steps as to how we have to build it and how we have to encrypt it and decrypt it. So they're coming up next. After the polygraphics, we're going to get into transposition ciphers like rail fences and routes and columnars. So until then, my friends, this is Malik. If you like the videos, give it a like down at the bottom. Subscribe to the channel. Again, my Twitter account's on there. I just opened that up, so if you want to join me there, I will be posting some stuff about, some security things coming out, or issues that we have with security now. But mostly what you'll get out of it is when I start doing live feeds, which I plan on doing in a week or so, you'll get a notification of when I'm going to do a live feed, and we can all kind of jump in and attack some things and talk about some stuff. Alright, so until then, my friends, this is Malik, and I'm out.